I presume you've been practicing the spells we worked on.
I have, Professor.
Well, I'm quite sure I've never seen anyone take so quickly to a second-hand wand. You'll be a force to be reckoned with when you get your own.
This is the story of a witch. A witch named Belle Rosepetal.
Stupid ass name.
No, it's not a stupid name. It's a Harry Potter-ish name. Anyway, Belle was an unknown fifth-year student who burst onto the scene at Hogwarts School, and there were some who believed that she could be the witch to lead the wizarding world into the future.
Indeed. None of the faculty has ever heard of anyone being admitted to Hogwarts so late.
Nor have I.
She was exceptionally bright in class, and quickly caught up with her fellow fifth-years.
You are a swift learner. I see a lot of potential, but remember, potential is nothing without practice.
Learning new spells was effortless for Belle, and she had a kind soul, always willing to help out someone in need.
Students, you can't be
Enough out of you.
Leave her alone.
But not all was as it seemed. Belle was found in the middle of controversy, not just at school, but throughout the wizarding world. Troll attacks, a goblin rebellion, and leading her own revolts against a growing poacher problem. Over time, Belle earned the trust of the professors and the elders of Hogwarts. But what they didn't know was that not only was she a budding talent for all of the typical teachings of Hogwarts, but she became adept at the dark arts, and she justified their use to avenge the evil wrought by her victims.
Ready?
I'm ready.
This is the tale of Belle Rosepetal, a witch with the power to change the world, but to what end?
Hogwarts Legacy is clearly the best entry to the Harry Potter line of video games, and for fans, this is the best Wizarding World experience that has been released to date. As you play the game, there are moments that are truly awe-inspiring, experiences that have never been realized more fully, and a story that may be slightly long in the tooth and have precious few opportunities for the player to make it their own, but one that is both memorable and chock full of standout moments. Hi, I'm Pyrus for Pyrus Gaming, and today we dive in for another full game review. In today's video, we discuss Hogwarts Legacy, the brand new title in the wizarding world of Harry Potter. A few disclaimers before I begin. First, I realize that there's been a lot of discourse about this game and issues related to the author of the books that created the world this game takes place in. And while it's not my place or anyone else's to tell you how to make a distinction between a creator and their works, or in this case, the works of video game developers who created their own story inside the world created in the controversial author's books. So that's kind of far removed. But anyway, this video will not be about that. This is looking at the merits of Hogwarts Legacy as a video game. Nothing more, nothing less. Secondly, in full transparency, while I am not a die-hard fan of Harry Potter, I did enjoy the series, especially the movies, and I am pretty familiar with the world. Last year, I even got to go to a local event that was themed after the movies, and that was pretty cool. Before the beautiful, picturesque snow that was falling turned into sleet and rain and cold and wet socks, and that's a different story. But that being said, it's not all sunshine and rainbows with Hogwarts Legacy, and we'll get to that soon enough. If you're new to the channel, this is a full game review, meaning I'm recording this after completing the game. In these videos, I give a general commentary about what to expect in the game before breaking it down into my 5 core elements: story and narrative, gameplay and controls, graphics and presentation, music and sound design, and last but not least, fun factor. Then I'll give an overall score for the game and a recommendation whether to buy it now, wait for a sale, try it on demo or streaming, or maybe just hold off for something else. For many, the world of Harry Potter has been a product that has been with them through their childhood. With the immense success of the movies, that love has spread through multiple generations of fans. Prior video game entries to this series have focused almost exclusively on following the tales from the movies, namely Harry Potter. But Hogwarts Legacy doesn't do that. While there are a few characters that can be found in the game that are also in the movies, they're exclusively ghosts, paintings, basically old, dead stuff. So this game takes place nearly 100 years before the events of the movies. To put that into perspective, the developer said that Professor Dumbledore is still a few years away from receiving his invite to Hogwarts. So I wonder what that kid looks like. Oh, wait, he's probably just gonna look like a young Jude Law. I mean, now that we've seen the Fantastic Beasts. In Hogwarts Legacy, you are a brand new 5th-year student to Hogwarts. After a traumatic experience on your way to school, you quickly learn that you have a lot to catch up on. Thankfully, your professors see potential in you, and they do their best to get you up to speed through direct teaching, as well as homework that takes you out into the world to put all you've learned into action. The opening scenes of Hogwarts Legacy can leave you feeling a bit lost, especially if you're not a fan of the series. There are places you visit and things that happen which won't make much sense without prior knowledge or until they're explained to you after the fact. While you simply are a student at the school, there is a lot going on around you. You learn of a goblin named Ranrock who has a vendetta against wizard kind, a dark wizard named Rookwood who joined forces with Ranrock for his own personal gain. You'll encounter poachers who are capturing, killing, and even forcing creatures to fight to the death for sport in an illegal gambling ring. No, that wasn't a joke. I didn't just make that up. Literally forcing them to fight in an illegal gambling ring. Despite being new to the school, you're quickly thrust into the center of the story due to your unique ability to see ancient magic. So we'll start things off with story and narrative. And as I mentioned earlier, Hogwarts Legacy is a completely new story. Beyond the main story, which is meant to unearth the history of the ancient magic, as well as the struggles with Ranrock and the goblins, there are several side stories, including 3 longer quest lines that involve some of your classmates. Each of these stories is fleshed out pretty well, with the particular standout being Sebastian, the troublemaking Slytherin who you quickly form a bond with. To give credit where it's due, these side stories are not simple fetch quests for the most part, though there is a bit of that, and they have clear progressions to them. You and your classmates will encounter life-altering experiences, and experiences that will challenge how you perceive magic, morality, justice, and family. I will say that other than these 3, the majority of the rest of the side quests left little to no impact on me. Most were 1 to 2 part quests with rewards ranging from cosmetics to a very small bit of gold. The main story of Hogwarts Legacy takes a while to get to the point, but it does make sense for the most part. And it has a few twists which I honestly didn't see coming. It plays a lot with the ideas of trust, right and wrong, and personal justification. Almost all of the characters of Hogwarts Legacy have well-grounded motives which make them sympathetic characters. Characters are not evil for the sake of being evil or good for the sake of being good. Their goals and ideals have been molded by their experiences, and honestly, I appreciated that. My biggest complaints about the story would be that it does feel like it takes a little too long to get where it's going. There are several times during the course of the story when your character allows things to happen, which they would seemingly be capable of stopping. I know certainly my character at the power level they were at could stop them. Like, you know, in general in these games, they figure some way to kind of sideline the main character, like at least stupefy me or something. Give me an excuse to not be able to react. But I'm not just going to stand there and let this shit happen. I just straight up murdered a horde of your minions. Overall, those are pretty minor gripes, and as a whole, the story of Hogwarts Legacy is actually pretty compelling and memorable enough for me to score it a 4.0 out of 5. Now on to graphics and presentation. Hogwarts Legacy has moments when it looks simply spectacular, and others when a combination of strange lighting and other glitchiness really lets it down. To be clear, never has a better recreation of the wizarding world been captured on a home console. The Hogwarts school comes across as detailed, magical, and full of secrets. From the living paintings and huge scale of the school to hidden passageways and the moving staircases, it's really impressive the lengths to which the developers have gone to faithfully recreate Hogwarts School. On the inside, it is very complex, with ornate and great detail and tons to explore. And from the outside, you can really appreciate the grandeur of the school. The strength of Hogwarts Legacy is in the attention to detail and the effects. In full transparency, I played Hogwarts Legacy on PlayStation 5, but I have seen many reports of another unoptimized PC release. My overall experience with the performance of Hogwarts Legacy on the PS5 is mostly positive, but the performance is definitely not perfect. There were multiple times when my character got stuck, either from jumping or landing awkwardly, usually in a corner. Sometimes I could wiggle myself free after a few minutes, and others I had to fast travel to a flue flame to move me to another area for me to escape. There is also the matter of lighting. Sometimes skin textures, the rays of light coming through the windows, or from the sun directly looked excellent and of a very high quality. And in others, it would make skin tones seem dull or dark. And in several of the dialogues between characters, I would notice a flickering or even a straight up difference in exposure between the two characters who are talking. So the two characters are clearly talking in the same room, but one would be far brighter than the other, and for no apparent reason. It's like there were two camera guys in the room, and they were arguing back and forth about which one had exposed properly for the scene. It's really kind of odd. I don't think I've ever seen that in another game. So, to be clear, these are not game-breaking issues, but they are warts on an otherwise impressive presentation. Overall, the detail and care that has been put into recreating the Wizarding World is a sight to see. Just don't look too closely. If the glitches and bugs were patched out, I could see this score going up, but as it stands, for graphics and presentation, I give Hogwarts Legacy 3.5 out of 5. It's just too inconsistent to give a higher grade, at least at this point. Next up, gameplay and controls. Now, this was the biggest surprise for me in Hogwarts Legacy. From the trailers and interviews prior to launch, I could see that the game was graphically pretty impressive, but the part I wasn't sure about was the combat. It always seemed kind of odd to me to see the basic cast mixed in with the control spells and the gameplay footage that I saw, but somehow they've created a combat system that punches well above its weight. What I mean by that is, combat feels really good. It's fast, slick, mostly intuitive, and casting spells in combination to destroy your enemies is immensely satisfying. And when I say destroy, I mean it. Your character does not pull punches in this game, especially if you go down the path of the dark arts and start picking up the unforgivable curses. These enemies are not getting up after you put them down. And honestly, even without the curses, you're taught combinations of spells, some of which are especially brutal. You can freeze an enemy in place with Glacius before you slice them into ice cubes with Defendo. There's even a talent tree where you can upgrade normal spells to have more devastating effects, or even to take on the same traits as curses to increase the damage your enemies take. The other thing about combat is that it is truly frenetic. You will almost never be in a one-on-one situation unless you're dueling someone at Hogwarts or against a much larger, much more powerful enemy, like a troll, for example. Attacks can be blocked or dodged, and you receive a yellow indicator above you just before a blockable attack lands, or a red indicator if the attack is unblockable and you need to dodge. If you successfully do block an attack, you will then cast Stupefy on the character to stun them afterwards. This is actually a great solution because you're going to be fighting hordes of enemies attacking from all sides. The large number of enemies combined with the limited field of view leave you in a situation where you can almost never keep all of them in front of you, and so you can't see what most of them are doing. The indicators take some getting used to, and even towards the end of the game, I frequently found myself dodging blockable attacks from time to time, but it's a brilliant way to make these gank fights more manageable. By the end of the game, you'll be so powerful that you can actually begin toying with your enemies, freezing them in place, lifting them helplessly into the air, or using the unforgivable curses to take control of their minds or give them a slow and agonizing death. Using the control curse Imperio to control the mind of a troll and have them start smashing goblins by your side was incredibly enjoyable. It reminded me of that weird questions your friends may have asked you in school, like how many kindergartners could you take at once? What? Your friends never asked you that? Am I the weird one? There are two main issues I have with Battle and one minor one. One that I don't think I've ever experienced before. So for some reason, maybe because the developers envisioned the game attracting a lot of young players, if you even have a small amount of health, you'll most likely not die to an attack. It seems that the game requires you to be hit once to bring you down to 1 HP and then again to finally finish you. Combine that with the ability to drink potions to heal at almost any time, even when you're flat on your back, and you really have to either be not paying attention or slow to react or out of potions in order to die. Don't get me wrong, it still happens, but it's just a really strange phenomenon. For me, this lessened the experience of the battles just because it made them feel a bit too easy. The other issue that I have is that the enemies you face, the variety is very limited. There will be a small range of beasts like spiders, wolves, and toads to go along with the occasional troll. Then, for humanoid characters, there are basically just wizards and poachers, which, by the way, are almost indistinguishable from one another besides the names, and then the goblins. On top of it, the majority of enemies have 1 to 2 attacks, including the humanoid characters, many of whom only have a single spell that they can cast over and over. So they might cast like Levioso over and over and over again. If they're the last one there, it's going to be a long fight. While you're growing your power in the ancient magic trials, you will encounter living suits of armor, all of which look and attack almost the same, just with varying weapons and sizes. They do look great, to be fair, and they have cool particle effects and attacks, but honestly, that's about it. Add in a handful of bosses over the course of the 30+ hour runtime in the average playthrough, and the enemy variety definitely leaves something to be desired. The small gripe I have is in the spell wheels. It is a bit cumbersome to swap between spell sets, but I'm not really sure how to make it better. By the midpoint of the game, even fairly early on, it's very easy to have too many spells to fit on a single wheel. So you need to use your trait points to unlock more wheels, and then swap between them by holding R2 and then using the D-pad to select each of the 4 different ones. They did take some of the spells and just make them conditional on your actions. For example, Alohomora unlocks locks, but you don't cast it, you just walk up to it and use the action button to use it. And Wingardium Levioso just activates when you use Accio on something after you've acquired it. Maybe they could have implemented something like this, at least for the Room of Requirement, so you swap to actions that you'd only use there, such as the spells for creating and altering objects, which serve no purpose outside of the Room of Requirement, or the spells that care for your animals when you're in their pens, for example. Again, it's not a major deal, but it definitely is a little bit clunky. Now, of course, that's not all there is to the gameplay of Hogwarts Legacy. It is loaded with puzzles, fetch quests, collectathons, and areas to explore. Riding brooms and mounts feels great and is really impressive graphically. You'll use spells outside of battle to open up paths, manipulate objects, and solve puzzles to help you progress. And that's all before you bring in the Room of Requirement, which serves as your base of operations and a location from which you can shelter beasts you've saved from poaching, brew potions for battle, upgrade your equipment, identify high-level equipment that you've acquired, and much more. Now, while there are many elements to Hogwarts Legacy, I will say that it feels like there are many that were a few steps away from being fully realized. Take equipment, for example. Gear comes down to 2 statistics: offense and defense. The higher the number, the better the gear is. Gear has rarity, but all that rarity does is that it allows for better and more costly upgrades. So you'll be frequently in a situation where the highest level gear you have is not the rarest. It also means that stats on equipment feel more like a random roll that takes into account your level. The higher your level, the better the gear that will drop. There are no legendary items in the world that are distinct or have their own unique traits or anything. They're basically just cosmetics with upgrade slots that are based on rarity. Again, it's not that the system's bad, it just feels sort of half-baked. But then again, maybe that's not such a big deal because when you're talking about cloaks and hats and gloves, I mean, how much difference can that make? At the end of the day, it's just Harry Potter dress-up time. Now, the best part about Hogwarts Legacy gear is that you can swap the cosmetic look of any gear to any other gear of that same slot type that you've picked up. To be honest, in my playthrough, I rocked almost the same look through the majority of it, and sure, I didn't really look like the average Hogwarts student, but hey man, that's just my style, okay? There's really a lot to consider when it comes to the gameplay of Hogwarts Legacy, and while there are many ideas that don't feel like they've been implemented as well as they possibly could have, the sheer amount of variety in gameplay, combined with a surprisingly fun and satisfying combat system, brings Hogwarts Legacy to a 4.0 out of 5 for gameplay and controls. Next up is music and sound design, and they do play the hits in this one. You will hear several themes from the Harry Potter movies over the course of the game. There are additional tracks for specific combat sequences and cutscenes that all seem appropriate to the action, and sound is generally of a high quality. Every line of dialogue is fully voice acted and the actors do a fine job for the most part. There are a few occasions where the emphasis a character puts into a statement seems to have been misplaced a bit, but these were few and far between. The only issue that I had was that there were several instances where the sound would be inconsistent in volume, or even a few where the sound glitched out and stopped playing altogether. I even had a very late game cutscene sequence, which I won't show to prevent spoilers, where there was clearly sound missing. Again, this seems like a bug, so I'm sure that eventually it will be fixed in a patch, but beyond replaying the hits, there's really not a lot to the music of Hogwarts Legacy. I guess that something should be said for the fact of just getting it right, and in many ways they have, such as the themes in Hogsmeade and the surrounding areas, and they do capture the overall feeling of magic and whimsy that the series is known for. The battle sounds are, again, a highlight, as the clang of disarming an axe from a goblin assassin and the gruesome thump as you use your ancient magic to hurl it into its former master's body is pretty satisfying. Damaging abilities all have appropriately fearsome sound effects, especially the unforgivable curses. Overall, I would say that music and sound design is on point, but the inconsistencies in volume and the occasional audio glitch, combined with the only memorable tracks being the ones I recognize from the movies, that's going to bring the score for music and sound design to a 3.5 out of 5. Okay, last but not least, fun factor. I will say that for the vast majority of my playthrough, I had a lot of fun with Hogwarts Legacy. I really enjoyed the battling, particularly as my character became more and more powerful, putting together devastating combinations of spells and negotiating the quagmire of battle was intensely satisfying. While using stealth made for quick and easy kills, I walked head-on into battle like a badass, just so I could use my arsenal of spells. Add to that the fun of discovery, finding mysteries and secrets seemingly everywhere in Hogwarts, some memorable character arcs, the best flying mechanics in an open world game that I've experienced in some time, and there is truly a lot of fun to be had with this game. As I mentioned, there was an artificially easy element to the battling, and the lack of enemy variety definitely didn't help the dragging runtime as the game slowly got around to its final act in the story, and those were the only main dampers on an otherwise fun experience. With the highs of combat, the details of world immersion, and the expansive range of puzzles, I have to give Hogwarts Legacy a 4.0 out of 5 for fun factor. Now, with how well this game has sold, I'm sure we'll see some combination of DLC and or a sequel, but there are many elements that feel like good ideas that just weren't taken far enough. There is a certain polish that this game is lacking in several areas. With the bugs, the visual and audio glitches, they definitely hamper the immersion, and hopefully they're addressed in short order. That all being said, none of it was game-breaking, and there is definitely plenty of fun to be had with Hogwarts Legacy. Overall, I would have to say that if you're a fan of the Harry Potter series, this is a must-buy game. The sheer level of detail that the developers have gone through in order to bring Hogwarts and the Wizarding World to life is truly impressive. fans of Harry Potter will absolutely love Hogwarts Legacy. As for everyone else, and taking Hogwarts Legacy as a game in and of itself, I would have to say that I'd recommend to wait for a sale. That will also give time for the developers to release some much needed patches to fix some of the issues that I've discussed. My overall score for Hogwarts Legacy is a 4.0 out of 5. So, let me know in the comments down below, what are your thoughts on Hogwarts Legacy? Subscribe for more content like this. I know I'm probably currently in the running for the highest percentage of viewers who aren't subscribed. I think I'm in like the 98 or 99 percentile or something like that. But honestly, that's not a title I'm shooting for. So if you would care to subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. If you'd like to check out my full game review for Fire Emblem Engage, click right here. If you'd like to check out my video that ranks all of the games I beat last year from worst to best, go ahead and click right here. But that's going to do it for today. Once again, I'm Pyrus for Pyrus Gaming, saying thank you for watching, and until next time, I will see you there.
How many inferior